right? So planning ahead for sure, but there are cases where we use the starboard tack blocker. Covering, why? What happens when I tack on a boat? They tack. And now is it possible that they're going to pass me? Right, so I'm not a big fan of tacking on boats in the middle of the race course. I think that if they're in phase and I'm not, I either want to tack here, right? If I'm like, oh, we're getting into a header, time to tack, great, I'll just tack in phase, pursue my strategy. Or if I want to cover them, do a loose cover. Bow to bow, and we call this herding, because like herding sheep. You're encouraging them to keep sailing because they have clear air, so they're happy. But they're also aware that when they tack, you're probably going to slam. Right? So, in other words, the safest way for me to beat this boat around the mark is to tack here, be patient, and then slam. Right? The race, the fight is not over at the windward mark. It's over when I'm at the ley line with the lead. So I'm basically shortening the race by encouraging them to sail to the ley line. Okay. Gotta remember these. Okay, working together, convenient friendships. Generally, I think that we should be trying to work with the boats around us to gain on the leaders, or if we're in the leaders, to extend on the next group. So until the very end of the race, or a mark rounding, we're working together. Let's cross the fleet, right? Like downwind, we get some pressure. Hey, we got downs. Let's go low together, right? Work with the boats around you, because if you're in that, it's not finishing 4th or 5th that kills you in a race or series. It's getting in a shit fight in 4th or 5th where you end up in 10th, right? Or being 1st and 2nd, worrying about the other 1st or 2nd boat, and now you're back in that 4, 5, 6 group, right? And you're missing shifts and getting past, right? So generally, I'm working together with the boats around me in that race. Telling people they can cross. We mentioned getting lead out. It's a really easy way to lose your lane. So cross, cross, you can cross. Don't say no, because what does no sound? Don't say go, because go sounds like no, right? So cross, cross, right? Encourage people to cross anytime you think you're lifted, right? If you think you're lifted, encourage them to cross so you can continue to sail in phase. It's going to be worth it, like a quarter boat length duck. Be worth it. You'll gain flow over your foils. Okay, faking angles. We mentioned this at the pin end, right? That before the race, you want to fake a bad angle on port to discourage other people from starting at the pin. When you're late in the summer and, Ridgely's boat is covering me hard because he knows he's to beat me to clinch the series, and I can manipulate where other boats tack by manipulating my angle, right? And this takes coordination among the trimmers, among the skipper, among the tactician, right? To sail fast in a low mode, to sail fast for a short period of time in a high mode without stalling, right? I think the most important thing there is probably your leash tension, right? If you want to sail in a low mode, just burping the main sheet. If you want to sail in a high mode, maybe a little main sheet on. And so using the leash and the skipper steering and small adjustments on jib trim to sail fast in different modes for short periods of time, right? You have your optimal VMG, upwind, but you can be close to optimal VMG and 5, even 8 degrees lower and like 5 degrees higher for a short period of time on a high mode. Okay, so if this is my normal angle, and I'm sure that someone, hypothetically, let's just call him Ridgely, is going to slam me, I can fake high, and now he's gonna tack here, and now I go back down to my low angle, and I might be able to get even a little bow back, I'm still in clear air. So in other words, they're reading where to tack based on your angle. And so if you fake it high, you can then foot to clear air. So you're going high as he's crossing me and determining where to tack, right? And he tacks here, and now I'm bowed down into clear air. So you can do that for sure. Faking low, if you think that they're going to tack in front of you or lee bow you. And it's just better, Brian and I were talking about this over bagels, in any port starboard encounter, as the starboard boat, you want to achieve ramming speed. You want to press the bow down a little bit as the skipper is streaming the telltales, full height from the crew, weight back a little bit, right? Maximum speed, because there's some type of maneuver coming, right? So if they're going to lee bow me, well now they're going to plant their lee bow here versus here because they think that this is my upwind, and now I'm going to take that speed into height, and I can live here for a little bit, or I have speed for my next tack. Right, so press the bow down into any port starboard encounter.
So how many boat lengths away would you start going low?
That's a good question. Yeah, maybe 5 or 6. Because I want to make it look like this is upwind.
Right.
Right?
I think it's when they start looking at you, it's like the next maneuver.
Because it could be close, you could be you don't want to do it so soon that you give them the cross,
Right.
if you want to herd them.
When do they start to observe you as like the next tactical situation?
They're observing me from 15 lengths out, but they're not determining exactly when to tack.
Right.
Until usually they're like, you know, if they're gonna tack on me, it's like as they've crossed my bow that they're gonna begin tacking, right? So that's where the high comes in, right? But
Are you forcing them to tack sooner because they have to?
Right.
if they can't cross, yeah, for sure, right? You're forcing them to tack sooner, and then again, you have the extra lift on your foils to lift right up often. On the ley line, sometimes I fake high, sometimes I fake low. It kind of depends, all right? But again, like we do this in the Snipe fleet all the time. Like the top sailors are constantly trying to give other sailors the wrong read on where to place their boat. You know, if I fake high, I'm hoping that they're gonna tack here, thinking they can make it and give me a lane. Now the disadvantage of that is that pinching, I'm then gonna have to come down for speed. Now I'm faking low, I'm hoping that they think that even though I am on ley line, I am not on ley line, and they're gonna sail to here and tack, and then I come up and I just make it. So I may fake my angle either way on ley line. I don't have like a hard and fast rule for how to do it.
Yeah, I like to fake it low when they're ducking me, and it's like I want them to think that they need to keep going, like further past ley line than yeah.
Okay. I mean they're behind you, Brian. So like. And I wouldn't recommend this like to risk missing the mark, but again, like, you know, if they tack on me, I might miss the mark anyway. So it's all about them not planting a good tack on my air. And I think that people misunderstand exactly where to tack to slam someone a lot of times too. We tend to cover between them and the wind. Not realizing that green here has clear air. The wind's from the top of the board because our apparent wind comes off the boat like that. So in general, when you really want to slam somebody, it's better to be basically in front of them, right? Maybe like a boat width to windward, but basically in front of them. Then they can't foot out of your dirty air, right? And even if they're here and they start to pinch, they're going to have less flow over their foil and they're going to start to fall down into you. So even like, you know, the pretend nice, hey, I'm not going to exactly slam you, but I'm forcing you into a slow BMG mode, that can be equally as effective and a little less antagonistic. So I tend to tack in front of boats.
You can also you get a slight benefit as the front boat if you lee bow close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they've done some scholarly stuff in Australia where they prove that you get a slight benefit from that if you're the red boat.
Okay, cool. Because you're basically making a slot effect between you and that boat.
Basically, yeah.
Sweet.
It's small, but it's there.
Awesome.
Which helps you then pinch them off because you're hurting them and helping yourself a little bit.
Sweet. Okay. How to achieve all of this? Communication on the boat. What you're saying is everything, okay? Like, how we communicate on teams is super important. And I'll go kind of to my Opti team race coaching background, that we have very rigid rules on how the sailors may communicate to each other during a race. Communication between boats, between teammates in a 4-on-4 team race is 1 to 3 words. 3 words maximum. You tack, switch, I got, ride, ley line, lee bow me, right? Maximum of 3 words. You're not allowed to overcoach your teammate or micromanage them in the moment. You're not the chess master, you're one of the pieces, right? And I think that we can apply some of these principles to the boat, that we want to have shorter phrases with the same words that we use to communicate the same thing. So just a way that I would probably break it down in these 4-person boats. The tactician's talking the most, right? They have kind of, and they don't have to be 1 to 3 words, right? They're the main occupier of the airwaves. Short and long-term aims for the boat, right? Kind of what we're trying to achieve, looking further up the course, and how we're going to, for our strategy, and how we're going to manage the tactics around us. Okay, fact versus opinion. I do this with my crew Gracie in the Snipe. When she's saying a fact, she'll say it. Pressure's high, pressure's low. She's the best downwind breeze spotter in the Snipe fleet. Best at calling the pressure downwind. You're lifted, you're high and fast, you're low and fast, you're high and slow, you're low and slow. You know? These are facts, okay? If she wants to say an opinion, pressure low, I think, jive. Just say I think is the cue for this is an opinion, right? So I think that can be just a good way. Or you can say recommend, or like what, as a tactician, like recommend tact. Right? But have just a way that you all know, like what's fact and what's opinion. When we're approaching the corners, when the corner boats tack, I always want to know that as a skipper. When are the corner boats coming back, and what does their angle look like, right? Corner boats tack, that's a fact. I think they don't look that good. Great, that's an opinion. Right? It's too far to judge, right? Anticipate crosses and when the next decision is coming up, right? So, depending on the level of trust of the skipper, right, the tactician is either calling everything or they're calling a lot, but also letting the skipper know when they look away from their telltales what they're looking for and expecting to see. If that makes sense, right? Every time the skipper looks away from the telltales, there's a price to pay in speed, right? So the trust is super important between the skipper and tactician. But like in the Snipe, and like, if you have a super experienced or super type A skipper, like they are going to play a role in the decision making. So the tactician can help them know what they're looking for when they look away, right? So an example of when we have a cross of a group of boats, our decision points, the points at which we'll make a decision, are here, or right now, or here. Between here and here, there's no decision. They're sailing through 3 boats dirty air on the opposite tacks, right? Which maybe we want to do. If we see more pressure on the right, if, that's ley line, right? I'm not saying one decision's right or the other, but now is decision time, or it's going to be here. So you anticipate the crosses, and So that's like anticipate the cross and the next decision. And if your skipper is going to play a role in the tactics, you're going to say, hey, there's a group of starboard boats coming across our bow, and you'll see them in 4 more boat lengths. Right? And then the skipper might ask a question. Where's the pressure? Where's the next hop? Right? And if I say left, okay, let's tack, boom, right? Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, as far as like the communication, so obviously like the tactician is typically the main trimmer on the J70, and just to kind of like add to this communication conversation, a lot of times like if the boat goes like slightly down speed, the main trimmer becomes like heavily responsible for focusing head in the boat and making sure the boat goes back up to speed. And like my team, we've developed like a really solid, like if Jackson has to focus in on speed, he's automatically like, I'm head in the boat, and that's a cue to Nick, who's my jib trimmer, to just be like, all right, I'm out of the boat because you missed one opportunity to tack and you're out of phase. So like not only like having the rules, but then trusting everyone around you to pass those rules off so that when you're focused on, when your tactician's focused on getting the boat to go fast again, you're not missing those tactical opportunities is like really, really important. We found that, especially like Davis Island is a classic spot where like shit just opens and closes all the time. So you have to be really diverse in everyone's ability to play a role in those different levels of communication. I just wanted to add.
Great, no, thank you. That's really good. I think that's awesome. It like heads in the boat, right? That's a great way to say it. I wonder if having in my optimal J70 team, if having the trimmer be the tactician might not be optimal, but if that's the personnel that's best on your boat, like that's probably more important. But
there's people that do it with the jib trimmer who's like out becoming like sometimes when my husband sails with people, he'll trim the jib, but he'll call tactics from the rail. There's teams that do that, but it's not as common.
Right. And on the J24, like I was the jib trimmer and Spinnaker downwind, and Mark Liebel in front of me was the tactician, and Robbie behind me is the driver. And I actually I like to talk a lot, and I had to shut up and I was responsible for making the boat go fast.
Yeah.
And Mark would get on me it's about to talk less, to not clog the airwaves for the tactician, and then with me talking the third most on the boat, we started to do a lot better, and working together for 5 years, just a couple regattas a year, but building that communication and trust over a longer period of time was really, really key. But I like that. My head's in the boat, or sorry.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Oh, my name?
No.
Oh, my head in the boat,
Head.
or it's
Okay.
your boat right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Chewing gum, a good tool to get people to shut up. You got too many talkers. Just pass out chewing gum.
you clearly haven't sailed with Alan before. He chews gum all the time, and he never shuts up.
It doesn't stop us.
Don't put that on the internet.
Yeah.
I think it's also dependent on which angle of sail you're on. So if you're going downwind, the person who has the least to do is the forward person. So, they should be anticipating balancing the boat. So they're the one that should be watching for puffs and lulls and changes of direction. So on our boat particularly, the forward person tends to really take over on those downwind tactics.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm not going to discuss downwind. But yes, the roles for sure can change downwind. All right, skipper. The main thing, as a trimmer, I want to know from the skipper is how the boat feels. How does it feel, right? Is super, super key, right? How does the helm feel upwind? And then when do you feel the pressure downwind, right? That's because we should be trimming to balance the boat. So if the helm is too loose, then I probably need a little more leech tension. Or in the Snipe, I'm letting my crew know that's max bang when the helm goes soft, right? So there's things that about heel angle, about feel of the boat that the skipper communicating is really key. And then kind of talking through maneuvers, like tacking in 3 lengths. That's nice to know. preparing to jump, right? Like that. We're ducking, right? These are nice things to know. So yeah, but I would say, and then also like, if you're still building the trust with a tactician, like I ask questions, right? Like, how do the boats over my shoulder look? Like, I really want my crew to watch my back and to watch the corners, right? And understand that the more I can trust, the faster we'll get, at least, right? Like, we might be equally dumb with someone else calling the game as me, but we're gonna be going a little faster to make up for it. Okay, third voice in the boat, and this could be between a couple people, but yeah, calling short-term puffs and short-term waves, like helping with the language of speed, right? So that the skipper can, and trimmers can kind of be playing the modes through puffs and waves. I know a lot of people like puffs in seconds. I prefer it in boat lengths, just to kind of see it. And in waves, just to comment on speed, we don't always put the bow down in waves. So like lee bow chop is different than like chop on the bow, right? I think a lot of times in Annapolis, the fastest way through waves, if you have powerboat waves coming like this, is speed before the wave, high mode through the waves to turn more parallel to the waves, and then speed afterwards. So, and that's true downwind as well. That the boat has the least resistance when it's a little more parallel to the waves. And then reminders on where's the mark, right? You're not calling the ley lines, okay? That's gonna be the tactician or the skipper, but hey, we're getting close to the corner, right? Mark here. I don't mind my crew pointing at the mark, right? Like that's great. So just reminders on that, yeah.
We also have someone that calls relatives to other boats. So saying we're low, slow, we're high, fast, we're whatever. And as a driver, that's super helpful. Like, okay, I have a little bit more of an up mode, so let's try and correct that. And as whoever's trimming the main, you know, it's just helpful in general.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. So a fun winter activity with your crew, and I did this with my college crew. She did on a plane ride, and it was super good. It was like, make a communication menu. Right? Like, what are the words that we're going to use in each stage of the race? Like, we don't want to be saying for like, take the kite down. Sometimes it's halyard, sometimes it's kill it, sometimes it's douse, right. Sometimes it's take in the parachute, please. Like, it should be the same thing, right? Halyard or kill, right? Whatever, right? So again, communicating the same thing the same way over and over again. Both for tactical considerations and for boat handling. So if you get together with like have a nice lunch at Boatyard, take your crew, take your skipper out, and then like write down what you're all going to say in each part of the race. I think is like super productive. All right, final musings. It's okay to bang corners, especially if you're slow. This is a picture of me port tacking the fleet at Snipe Worlds. We finished 12th that race. We were really, really slow. So it wasn't a bold move, it was a desperate one. And I think that I feel like a lot of sailors are just like told, don't bang corners, don't take too much risk. You're gonna look, and we're like afraid of failure and we're afraid of looking stupid. And I think if more people took more chances, you'd have even more variance, which there's a lot of in the fleet. Like a lot of different boats are winning different races from what I saw last summer, which is great. But you know, if more people take chances and more people end up on top in random races, and you make great stories, and that's a good thing. And again, like if what you're doing is not working, like do something different. The convolution of virtues. I think that this is an important thing to understand about sailing and about life, right? Like we assume in our society that like rich people are smart, when in fact maybe they were lucky or something, right? We assume that like, I don't know, because you're good at something, you're good at something else. This happens in sailboat racing where we think that the smart people are fast and we think that the fast people are smart. And like I've been told in like many snipe races, like, oh, you're so fast. And I'm like, no, I just tuned for 3 days with Bradley and he beat me in every single speed test. I assure you I'm not fast. I was sailing in clear air, and I was sailing in pressure, and I was sailing lifted, so I looked fast, right? And so this is important for our self-evaluation after a race, because the boat that finished last still did a number of things right. And the boat that won the race still did a number of things wrong. But their virtues masked their weaknesses, right? Or their weaknesses obscured their virtues. So that's where practice comes into play, that if you can kind of break sailing down into its derivative pieces, like you go out and tune out with another boat and you find if you're fast, right? Or you practice starts and now all of a sudden your starting is better and the tactics get easy, right? Like, you know, it's like I had a Wednesday night race last summer where we were joking like, we're slow, said the tactician. We're going the wrong way, said the trimmer. Like, everyone like thinks it's something else. And so figure out what it is. Don't analyze the result, analyze the process as much as you can. Again, seek speed, no stone unturned, no stone too shitty. Go down below, sponge out the water, right? You show the team that you're making a difference. And then finally, again, I'm new to this fleet, but just some comments on fleet vibes. I've been part of a J24 fleet that right after I left, like, disbanded in Maine because everyone was being like a jerk to each other all the time. And so it's important to keep good fleet vibes. So my opinion is that protests are healthy. If we never have a protest, if it's taboo to protest somebody, then nobody follows the rules. So it's important to be able to have a protest. Like, I can protest Sarah, and we can go to the room, and she can get me chucked, and we will, and like, know that we will still be friends, that it's a learning experience, that this is a sport, that this is competition. You know, some of my best friends right after college, Mitch Hall, Austin Kana, were people I got in protest with. So don't like have the stigma of like protesting is wrong. A few protests, probably fine, and let's like not take it too personally. Again, just be assertive, not personal, right? On the water, like, I'm on starboard, you can do more to keep clear, but not like, you suck, where'd you learn to sail, cooking class? Iron sharpens iron, so we want to be grateful for our rivals, right? If there's somebody that I'm going back and forth with every week, like I want to be grateful for that person being in the fleet with me, right? And then like politics stops at the water's edge, and when J70 Fleet 1 races other fleets, we want to see all of us doing well, right? So that's super important. Like we got that vibe finally in the Snipe fleet, where we're going to be super competitive among the top boats in the US, but then the last Worlds, we're all supporting each other and we get 2 boats in the top 10. So not me, but my teammates, right? But I'm happy to help them and I'm happy for them. So yeah, appreciating having rivals, I think is really, really important. And then just like, what I see on Wednesdays is like everyone kind of goes with their own crew to their own haul outs, and we launch from a lot of different yacht clubs here. So like having a fleet bar, a social activity. I know you're doing an awesome job of that in the wintertime, but in the summer, like hanging out, humanizing your rivals off the water is super important for the health of the fleet.
All right.
Cool. Any questions? Tactics, otherwise, kickball? Yes?
Did you cover, I was a little late, how to capture the oscillation timing and the magnitude of that?
No, we didn't talk about capturing the timing because we mostly talked about land to windward, where there's going to be a fair amount of randomness. Yeah, I don't know. Do we sail here on the sea breeze where you can time the wind shifts?
Sometimes.
Kind of, if it's 180, at area A.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when we travel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe you have more tips on this. I think it's hard to always be sailing upwind to get it all the way up to the start. Again, I kind of use the race committee for that, of understanding that they probably set to the average. So if the boat's favored, I'm starting in a righty, and if the pin's favored, I'm starting in a lefty, and then I'm gonna try to start and get in fades.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, that's part of the pre-race homework, right? That's, if you know you're sailing in a venue that has pretty consistent oscillations, you need to be able to get out early enough that you can be sailing upwind for long enough to start to time those. So.
All right, and when you say getting in phase,
Yep, starting by sailing the lifted tack.
that's right, and then the oscillation occurs.
Yep.
Sometimes there's a debate on how far to drag that oscillation before tacking, and sometimes it's like immediate. What are your rules of thumb and why?
Always look in front of me before I tack. Like, the grass is not always greener, and like if there's more pressure ahead, hold a little bit longer, right? Because most shifts are gonna come with a small change in pressure. So, you know, I'm always like with any decision, it's like, what do I see here versus what do I see here, right? And so if I'm headed, I'm not automatically gonna tack. For one reason, if it's a lull, then it's a apparent header, right? As you sail into a lull, you feel headed, because you get headed, because you have the same speed, less wind, apparent header. Same thing, you get a puff. A puff that is not a shift is a lift, because your vector came back, because your apparent wind vector moved back. So for me, it's all about the pressure. Yeah, I'm actually like, I feel like I've been sailing with a compass for like 5 years, and I'm still kind of like learning to remember the numbers and take note, and I still appreciate that it says tack arm plus and tack arm minus on the tack. But again, like, sail with your eyes.